Let me just leave this page. Yes, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone who has joined us for this all-important webinar brought to you by the Africa-China Center for Policy and Advisory. This is our first ever public discourse that we are having as a new research think tank. In the next couple of minutes, I will take the opportunity to introduce who we are to everyone and see where we can all together build synergies as we share the broader vision that we have. So once again, let me use this opportunity to welcome all of you to this webinar that we've already been looking out forward to having at this point. So I'll take the next 1 minute. Of course, this is going to be very conversational. So the webinar is structured in just 3 parts. So the first part will involve our guest speaker sharing his first insight with us. Thereafter, I'll follow it up with some questions. And then the third part is very important. That is when you come in, those of us who have joined us online. That's when you come in with any question that you have. When you check on your Zoom app, you have some buttons there. One of them is a Q&A. So if you have questions regarding the conversation that we're going to have today, please we'll welcome them through the Q&A button. And that is a very important part of the session. We want to hear from you. We want to know what we think. It can be opinion, it can be questions. We prefer questions in this regard. So you can bring in your questions and then be a part of the conversation. If you want to speak, I can unmute you. I can, give you the privilege to speak up as well. So that option too is available. So either you want to send your questions without reading it out to the speaker, or you raise your hand, and then I'll allow you to be able to speak directly to everyone. So that is how it's going to be. Now, again, let me take this opportunity to just in the next 2 minutes share some information regarding the Africa-China Center for Policy and Advisory. I'll come to the webinar the purpose of today's schedule. So the Africa-China Center for Policy and Advisory is a Sino-African research and policy think tank and advisory firm headquartered here in Accra. And the history is that we were launched last November 2022. So we're just a month or so old as a policy think tank. And what we are committed to is that we're committed to providing unbiased policy and market research, as well as distinct views on Africa-China relations. We're also going to be providing strategic guidance on key issues regarding China-Africa, covering multiple sectors and industries. So as you can read from the name, Africa-China Center for Policy and Advisory, so we actually are positioned to focus on 2 core functions. So a part of what we are doing is a think tank work, which I'll share with you what goes into that. And then a part is advisory, which I also share some information on what kind of advice you provide. So the think tank, what we basically do is research. We all know the kind of relationship that exists between Africa and China, a very enviable kind of relationship, and it's attracted a lot of attention from all over the world. And rightly so, we need to be able to ensure that we are providing and people have access to credible insights on what actually is happening between Africa and China. What are the, getting people to go through the nuances and be able to really ascertain for themselves what is actually happening on the ground. And it's only research and the insight that we are committed to providing that can help do that. It doesn't mean that it's not being done. It's been done, but then it also requires that we have an African voices, which is very important. So when you go to China, there are a lot of think tanks, a lot of research institutions that are working in and out, providing reports and research and insight on the relation between China and Africa. At the same time, we need to have similar such institutions in Africa that are also involved in this kind of situation. So that is what we are coming to do to help in the African perspective, or what we believe is a working relationship between Africa and China. Advocacy, of course, it's going to be one of our key components in terms of the think tank. We need to also be able to speak up. And even today's platform that we're having is a form of advocacy. And of course, special reports and dialogues, like what we are doing. We'll be having a lot of activities in the coming months and years. Roundtables, breakfast meetings, dinners, public lectures, summits and conferences, media briefing. It's all going to be part of the kind of dialogue that we want to have, which feeds into our advocacy, and also we do them based on the researches that and the report that we've been producing. So the advisory is on that side. We believe that the advisory is two ways. We're going to be assisting businesses across Africa, governments across Africa. So our advisory is two parts, both the private and public. So we want to assist governments across Africa, businesses across Africa that want to access or want to do business with China. Same way, we are assisting both public and private organizations in China that also wants to assess opportunities in Africa, want to help them understand the market opportunities, the risks thereof, and how and mitigate and find the right partners in Africa. So that is basically what that advice should be doing: market entry research, trade and FDI, very core. So we're going to help governments across Africa to be able to see how they can structure their investment promotion, authorities to be able to assess the investment opportunity from China, and vice versa. ESG and sustainability, a big part of what is happening globally now. So obviously, we'll be assisting companies both in China that want to go green. We help them with their ESG strategies. Africa-China policy strategy is more very public in nature. We do customized report as well. So there'll be organizations both in Africa and China, they want to have a specialized report in certain areas of their interest. They can reach out to the Africa-China Center and be more than happy to assist them with such information. Of course, now that China is opening up, which is a conversation we're going to be having, helping students across the continent to be able to access education opportunities in China. So that is going to be one of the core things that we'll be doing. We will be setting up the desk for this advisory on studying in China in the next month. Well, today's conversation is going to be, we're going to do is more economic, geopolitics, and everything boxed into one. And I would like to take this opportunity to share this good news with all of you. So we are part of a broader organization that I'm part of, which is the ICC, Institute of Certified Chartered Economists. So the ICC is a professional qualification for anyone that wants to pursue a professional qualification in economics. If you want to become a chartered economist, then the ICC is the preferred global certification to take advantage of. Because if you want to really understand them deeper in the kind of conversation that we'll be having as a center, as we'll be coming to in the coming weeks, a lot of activities that will be going on. Obviously, we want to also up your knowledge in terms of economics, and this is where I recommend the ICC Chartered Economics qualification to you. The next slide, you can see the website there. I'll still put the website of the ICC in the chat box so that you can visit their websites and then be able to get opportunity to be part of the global community of economists. That way, conversations like the one we're having will be very much easier for you to actually understand and be a part of the conversation. So it's just an ad that I'm just giving out, that if you're interested in earning a professional qualification in economics, then the ICC is Chartered Economists, the preferred choice. So back to today's webinar. So I'm pretty much done with what Africa-China Center for Policy and Advisory is, a think tank and a research and policy advisory firm. So today, we're happy to begin our public discourse with our first webinar. And very much so, we're very excited and happy to have our first advisory panel member as our speaker for this webinar. And basically, we're going to be delving into what we call the China's recent lifting of restrictions for COVID-19 and why that matter. Why does this matter to China? What does it matter to the global economy? Why does it matter to the Africa-China region? It's very important. This single act of China has received a lot of reaction, both negative and positive, as we go into details from around the world, with a lot of countermeasures from other countries as well. So we want to really understand what is happening, what really went into this. And there's a core principle, what we call the dynamics, zero COVID-19 policy of China. So we are very much excited that we have someone who has lived through it, within these 3 years of the restrictions based in Beijing and seeing the swings in policies and all of that. So we'll be very much positioned to share this insight with us. Now, I would like to introduce him to all of us. So just a moment. So Jinkan Wu is a former special advisor to the president of IFAD International Agriculture, I've forgotten the full name. He joined the Ministry of Finance of the People's Republic of China in 1989. Through his entire career in the Ministry of Finance from 1989 to 2012, Mr. Wu once served as the Deputy Director of the Program Division in the World Bank Department, the Director of IFIS Division, and the Deputy Director General of the International Department. During this period, Mr. Wu served as Alternative Executive Director for China in the World Bank, the IFAD Board Member for China, and then the GF Council Member representing China. While mainly focused on external relations and cooperation with the World Bank and the other AFIs, such as the Asian Development Bank and EIB, Mr. Wu was also an active member of the Chinese delegation responsible for financial matters in the negotiation of international environment conventions such as UNFCCC, CBD, Montreal Protocol, and Stockholm Convention, and served through the whole process as the Chinese representative for the Green Climate Finance Transitional Committee and accumulated rich experience in green and climate finance. Mr. Wu holds a Master of Arts in Western Linguistics and English Literature from Peking University in Beijing. And he worked for over 23 years at the Ministry of Finance until retirement, and now has been involved in a lot of international organizations. Recently, he was part of an expert panel put together by the G20 to put together a report on how to resource and re-strategize on multilateral development banks. He's an advisory panel member of the Africa-China Center for Policy and Advisory. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's a privilege to welcome Mr. Jinkan Wu as our first speaker for our first webinar series as a center. Mr. Wu, please, you may take over now. Thank you.
Hello, hi, good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening, everyone. Also, thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. And you have given a long introduction of me, which has which brings me back to all the memories of the last almost 35 or 33 decades. Well, you mentioned in your introductory remarks about your Central African China Center for Policy and Advisory. I would like to hear it again. Send my sincere congratulations for your efforts to establish this center. And also, I was told that it is the first webinar organized by the center, and I'm so privileged and so honored to be invited to be a speaker of your first webinar. So it's a
Thank you.
great pleasure.
Thank you.
It's indeed a great pleasure for me. I thank you so much for inviting me to do this. You also mentioned that I lived throughout in the past 3 years in China, in Beijing. So all the development of the COVID-19 pandemics. It was true. It's a true statement, of course. And I still remember when the epidemic broke out, and 3 years ago, almost like, I was traveling with my family as a tourist in Thailand, in Chiang Mai, Thailand. We enjoy the warm weather there. Well, in Beijing, it's very cold. It's below 0 temperature then. And while Thailand is a very warm place, so we decided to go there to stay for more than a week, and before the spring, just before the Spring Festival started. And in Thailand, then suddenly they saw this epidemic broke out, and we were lucky, but we just get back return according to our schedule. We just get back to Beijing, and a few days before that, the city also It's studying status of protecting and preventing, controlling of the pandemics. So I was started as an introductor. I was asked to give a brief introduction about this the latest development, how China went through all this and what is there now. The good news is that China has adjusted its strategy, and what is very good for the Chinese economy, but also as well as the global economy, and also what will be the implication for the African countries. Well, let me just start that by saying that over the past 3 years, China has adopted a dynamic zero COVID policy, which was by and large a preventative approach, aiming at preventing people from being infected by the virus under the principle of putting people's life and health above anything else. Okay, the people first policy. This policy has protected people's life and bought time, very importantly, bought time for understanding the virus based on science, for research and development of vaccines, antiviral drugs and therapeutics, and for vaccinating more people nationwide. Okay, this is how we understand the dynamic zero COVID policy. Although we call it the zero COVID, it doesn't mean there's no COVID at all in the country. It means whenever you find a case, you quickly put it down and to protect people who are not affected. So this is it's very tough job, indeed, very challenging tough job. But China has successfully managed that. And so I think it is worth noting that China has effectively coped with over like 100 COVID-19 epidemic outbreaks across the country. Okay, you get one city here a few days, weeks, and a few months after another city, another places all over the country. But we've successfully coped with those cases and managed to keep its incidence rate, severe illness rate, and mortality rate at the world's lowest level. So saving numerous lives. So in that sense, we believe that the policy has achieved its intended objectives. Now, as everybody knows now, China has adjusted its COVID-19 strategy in recent weeks to cope with the changing situation of the pandemic, both internationally and domestically, which is characterized by a weakened symptom, that as the prevalent Omicron strains are seen to cause symptoms confined mainly to the upper respiratory tract. So the government has downgraded the COVID-19 management from class A to class B infectious disease, while resuming passport, visa insurance, and easing border entry policies. So starting on 8th of January, which is yesterday. So this is very, very important turning point, as we said, after the persistent efforts over the past 3 years to contain the spread of COVID-19 virus. Now the focus has been shifted from infection prevention to medical treatment. And with special attention being given to the people over the age of 65, like me, and also for younger children, like my granddaughter, which is about, it is 7 years old, as well as those with basic disease, while stepping up efforts in the provision of booster vaccinations. So many people already have 3 shots in the past 2 years, 3 or 2 years. But now they was thinking about they get another round of booster vaccination. So the 4th, starting with the 4th or maybe even the 5th later on. This particularly for the elderly and older people. Okay. So the utmost efforts will be made to prevent severe cases and fatalities. So the nationwide efforts are also moving to rural areas before the most populated urban areas, but now the efforts are moving to rural areas with the relaxation of the restrictions. Now we need to pay much more attention to the rural areas, and because the medical workers and facilities are not as adequate as the larger cities. So to ensure that people's life and health are well protected as well. So it is people maybe and from in China we understand that they shift this transition, but maybe people in outside are wondering, as the Paul previous mentioned, people are confused why this. Okay, it's a very important thing I would like to mention here is that the changing, we call it a changing situation. We see it because we watch very closely the international trend of the development of the virus. Now we come to understand now the symptom of the caused by the Omicron virus is weaker. It's not as the Delta and original virus. So we realize that we have also learned from the international experience. So now it is a time, because we got the experience, we got the vaccinations, we got drugs, we're getting well prepared. So we prepared almost like for 3 years to the last moment. Okay, now it's time to relax the policy and to adjust the strategy. Now we see in Beijing, I myself, I don't know whether you can see, you can guess whether I got the virus or not. Frankly, I would like to tell you, I also got the virus a few weeks ago when the Beijing started reaction, because my daughter, she's working, in the so she has to have a wider contact with his colleagues and other people. So also the whole family get affected. But because, as I said, because the symptom is much weaker, and also mainly is limited to the upper respiratory tract, like say. So I get very light cases. I even didn't have too much cough, not severe fever. I just gave an example, but this is not everybody like this, but everybody is individually, they have different, but I just to tell you through my personal experience, the symptom is much weaker than the previous virus variations. So now, I think now we see they say the good results has already appeared. The optimization of the COVID-19 response means that the Chinese residents will be willing to travel and to spend. Okay, so the consumption will become a major driving force for economic growth, and all sectors of the society will soon come back to normal. As already some of them already come local. We have already now started to see that the life coming back to normal again, as before the outbreak of the pandemic. Now in Beijing, we can see this now the traffic jam start to reappear again, and in those crowded streets and also some main transportation road. And the economic activities and also resumed, and the restaurants, theaters, and supermarkets. It's also again because crowded, and people and shopping and visiting friends, and also start to go back to the workplace, and so the city has come back to life again. Globally, the optimization of the COVID-19 response in China will also create more opportunities for the world economy, for the world economic recovery, and also the promotion of trade and investment. Also including industrial and supply chains, tour industry, etc. So on the first day of the relaxation, we say that the flights, international flights, okay, landed on China's airports, and people are making their plans to travel again. So I think this is, as Paul, as the Mr. Moderator mentioned earlier, that what is the implication for the African. I think this is also good news for African countries, given that the very dynamic cooperation between African and countries and China. There are many areas where the two sides could further strengthen their cooperation, including like trade and investment, infrastructure, agriculture, tourism, climate change, okay, education, culture, just to name a few. So there are also existing platforms for the African countries and China to work together to further strengthen the cooperation and take advantage of the post the pandemic period. So we have all existing platforms such as the Forum of China-African Cooperation, and we have the Belt and the Road Cooperation between China and Africa. We have also in a lot of framework of South-South cooperation. All these are also very good platforms. Of course, also including African Union's Agenda 2063 and other development strategies and in Africa of African countries. These all platforms and agendas 2063 all be kept connected together and to have to harmonize the approach and to to produce the more effective results. Just a more few words that the China and African, as you traditionally, we're good friends and we are reliable partners and good brothers. And so we stand together in terms of mutual assistance, team up and meet difficulties and treat each other with sincerity. So we can work together again and to take advantage of. I hope that will be soon more Chinese tourists going back to Africa again. So as before we see in all the larger airports, we see the Chinese tourists, and this see a lot of they really love the beautiful scenery of African continent. So I think once they are ready, they'll go. So probably I will just stop here for a moment and Paul and give the floor back to you.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Wu. That was very broad and very insightful. Thank you very much for sharing those first thoughts with us. So we'll be zooming into the second part of the conversation, which is where I get to ask you some few questions. And before I go ahead, please, again, we welcome questions from you participants that have joined us. So you can use the Q&A button to send through your questions, and I'll read it out to Mr. Wu to answer. Again, if you would like to speak up, you can just raise your hand, use the hand raising button, and I will just give you the permission to be able to speak up. Whether you want to make comments or you want to ask questions directly to Mr. Wu, you can do that. But I prefer you send me the questions via the Q&A button. Right. So again, we've done an article, we've done an insight about this very topic that we're having. So I'm going to put the link of this article in the chat box. You can later on check it out and read it. So I'm sending it to everyone. So it's there. So we did a recent insight. Actually, I authored this insight on the COVID-19 restriction, why it matters to the global economy, and of course, Africa-China relations. So you can read it out later after this session. So Mr. Wu, I would like to play the devil's advocate, which is what has been happening since the announcement came. And I believe this is tied to more of geopolitics, right? We've seen when you track, I mean, from the day the announcement came, with respect to China now allowing international travels both to and fro from China, you can track the kind of reporting, the kind of feedback, and depending on where you stand geopolitically, you can track the kind of feedback, whether it's positive or negative, and where it's coming from. So typically, you will see from quarters that really welcome the news, because they believe that China is a very pivotal, very important economy with respect to the global growth that we all anticipate, because as we've seen, the world has not even fully recovered from the 2008 financial crisis, and now we're hit by COVID-19, and we know that any slow in the growth of China's economy affects. So people that are on the other side are very excited to see this new development, and I believe that most, of course, in Africa are very excited. At the same time, you receive some form of hostility towards this policy, especially from the West. We've seen a lot of reports that sort of puts down the relevance of this new restriction. I want to understand from what you said, what has been China's reaction to? I believe it's not something new that whatever China does is being attacked geopolitically. So I want to understand what has been the response of China. Maybe I will tie into when, as also after this announcement, you've seen countries now also introducing more like new COVID rules specifically targeting China. So they're saying that only travelers from China are going to be subjected to this new COVID requirements. So we can box that into two, about the negative reactions and positive reactions, and of course also about the new policy directives from some select, dozens of governments across the world, including Ghana. My country is one of them, considering issuing specific directive against travelers from China.
Okay, thank you very much, Paul, for your question and also comment. Well, let's first let's say before when China has adopted a zero COVID policy, and then we say some of the Western private media say, well, this is restricting people's rights to move freely, and this when you have a zero, they criticize your zero COVID policy. Well, when you relaxed, you adjusted the zero COVID policy, and then they also criticize you. Oh, this is not good, it's not bad, you should do something. So this is ridiculous. I read this a lot of this of this Western media, and once I remember I spoke to my one African friend. I said, "Hi, come on, what is this? So biased. What is their rumors, the nonsense? They put dirty water on China. Whatever you do, we call it the damn you do, damn you don't." And then my African friend told me, "Oh, calm down, Mr. Wu. Come on, this is a competition. This is competition." No. Okay, now I understand. They said, whatever you do, they were not saying anything positive for you. They was always say something bad to you. They will always put dirty water on you whatever you do. Because I think the thing, it is not important of the thing itself, whatever I call it a matter or a thing. Okay. It is most important is from which perspective you see it. That decides, that matters. So we know this, but we are very clear in ourselves. We have to do the things right. We have to clean our own house first. And so long as we have done our job good, no matter what they say, no, it doesn't matter really to us. So we have to stick to a policy which we think is correct to adopt. That also it's good for it is good to protect the people's health and life. It is good to promote economic development. It is good to promote international cooperation and the global economy. So then it's good for all these things. We stick to this approach and we will achieve our objectives. You mentioned that some countries, they started to restrict. This is really, before, I want to say this, but anyway, I think this is good news also for some countries. Like I heard some news like Malaysia, Thailand, and New Zealand. Oh, they say that we're not going to put any restriction. We welcome the Chinese tourists. The coming way, Malaysia, so we are ready. Thailand say we are ready to receive more Chinese tourists. So really, for example, for me, of course, I would like to visit the country I feel welcomed. Okay, like you have to spend your money. You can spend your money anywhere, but you don't have to spend your money to a place which you're not welcomed. They say they will restrict your entrance. You don't have to take all this trouble and to spend your money to looking for trouble. So that's my personal view on this. Okay, Paul, back to you.
Okay. So great. Okay, so
I just want to add one more thing, that just every country, my advice is to be ready for the Chinese tourist. Okay, also tourists and business travel, and so yes.
All right, great.
Because the virus, because the Omicron virus, what is happening in China, it's no difference with other countries. The way we just say some bad things on China. The same, maybe we got it from there. So it's ridiculous. Right. This is politics, the only politics. So we don't really pay too much more attention to those politics. Otherwise, we don't want them to intervene our own efforts. To influence, to impact our own efforts to do things right, to do things good, to promote our economic development. That is our priority. We don't have to deal with all these things every day. It will consume your energy and your thinking. You have to put your efforts on something else, not on those nonsense. Okay.
All right, I get it. So it's a follow-up. It's a follow-up to the question I asked, and this is coming from Dr. Isaac Ankra. So I'm reading from the Q&A. Again, please, if you have questions, you can send it through using the Q&A button. If you want to speak up, please raise your hand, and I'll give you the permission to do so. So regarding this, counter protocol set by country, so he's asking. is it possible that China is going to retaliate to any of those countries? And what would China accept or will not accept as far as these countries' specific protocols are concerned?
Okay. By the way, I'm an ordinary citizen. I'm Chinese citizen. I cannot speak for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I'm not a spokesman of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So this is the very personal view, the personal view. And as I said, if you are not welcomed, you don't have to go there. Why should you go there? But of course, I can say it's easy for me to say that because I don't have to go. I don't have to go there. Why you bother to go there? You spend your money and to buy happiness. You should spend your money to buy happiness, right? You spend your money to buy unhappiness. Why? What's wrong with the people who travel to the country that they are not welcomed? I don't know. This is my personal view. So it's not a big deal for me. I think this is not a big deal. Okay. Maybe they have some other intention. I think the purpose is they want to just disrupt your policy measures, to disrupt, to distract your attention, to disrupt, to influence, to say to something. The final purpose of this is to prevent the China's economy to develop. That's my understanding. Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense. They're trying to block the Chinese efforts to develop their economy. That's the only purpose I see from that. The logic, only the logic I can say. Otherwise, it doesn't. It's scientifically and medically speaking, it's not a right thing to do. Yeah.
All right. So there's another question from Dr. Isaac Anka. So he's asking that, prior to lifting the restrictions, there were, some demonstrations across, certain provinces in China. We saw public, discontents about the restrictions and all of. So he's asking, how did these, demonstrations influence the decision to lift the restrictions, or not? Was it part of or just purely on scientific reason, as you mentioned, or these public, sentiment towards the restrictions will also played a role in why we are seeing the lifting of the restrictions? Yeah.
Okay. Well, again, that's the demonstration. We use the word demonstration. It could be a large demonstration, like something happened now, or like complaints. Because I'm living in Beijing as a Beijing citizen. I did not see any this kind of so-called demonstration happening in the streets and but I heard some complaints are happening about the community. Later, like I'm living in apartment community. We have like 10 buildings, 10 apartment buildings. Okay, like a few hundred people living in this community, small community, and but I'm not talking about this. We don't have any of these kind of incidents in this community. But in some community, maybe some people are not so happy because they want to go out and there's on the field. China, we have 1.4 billion people. It's huge, such a huge country. There are some places, maybe some people are not that happy because some people they don't want to go out. Some people they want to go out. After the relaxation, just tell you a funny story. After the relaxation, the people who used to want to go out now stay at home. They don't want to. People want to stay home now. They go out. So this is, But for me, it's not. There's no political. I don't even want to call it a political event in China, but it's so-called a demonstration. But the Western media, they make a story of the small story. They can amplify small story because large, like the whole country is in chaotic situation. It's not that true. It's not that true. But it is true that some people are not happy about the zero COVID, zero COVID policy because they say because they said I'm okay, I'm fine. Why I'm not allowed to go here? Because we the Chinese, we have the sense of the collective community. So we don't have to so selfish. You have to protect other people's interests, not just your own, but also other people. So you have to protect the other people. But so there's a differences, and then this is understandable for me. I fully understand this. But now, but they say that whether it's an influence or not, I'm also thinking about this. Whether the community, there's an influence of the decision of the communities, maybe of certain districts. But I think the major influence, as I said earlier, it's not because some people are not happy. If some people are not happy, we have to change our policy. Then you have to change your policy every day, because every day some people are happy, some people are not happy. It's a daily life. So you cannot change your policy day after day. Every day you have to change, because some people are not happy. You change the policy, but you change the bank and change back and forth. But the main things and driver, I think, is the situation, the changing situation, and a lot globally, domestically, because what I think that they weakened symptom. Okay, we call it this weakened therapeutics. Okay, because the symptom mainly confined to upper stage. So there's no serious. Many people before we focus on district, we focus on the community. All efforts on the community and districts and the street. But now the focus is on the hospitals. So we do the targeted approach to treat the elderly people, the old people, and to treat the people with basic disease. Also, this is more targeted, actually targeted approach now. I think this is also it's a good for given the current changing situation. I think this is the right thing to do. Okay, Paul. I hope I answered your question.
Thank you. So, so I think I'm going to ask this question. It's a follow-up to your last comment. So this one from Freddie. So in saying that you mentioned that the virus, the current strain or variant is much bigger than the previous ones that experienced. So it's asking what has been the reason behind this? Is it because of the medication that is happening, or is it because of the robustness in the Chinese healthcare system that is be able to lead to having these weaker variants?
Well, I'm not an expert on the health expert. I'm not a doctor, not a the medical person. But I think, by my personal view, my experience tells me here when living in Beijing for the last 3 years, my experience is that it's the changing of the virus itself. It is not. I don't think it is. We don't so far. I think human beings has not yet developed a kind of drug, okay, a medicine which can kill the virus. Okay. Can kill the COVID-19 virus. I don't think we have succeeded in that sense. No, the virus is very difficult to kill the virus at all. But what you only can do is to prevent from being infected by the virus. But now because the virus, but many cases, because we have the people and get sick, get affected, we have all this, we understand now, the government start to understand more and more, understand, of course, the international experience domestically for the whole year, because since Omicron, it also took took a few months, took several months for the government, for the experts, even the policymakers. I think I should talk about experts, medical experts, who are the virus experts, who studied this virus, development of the virus, and waited for, say, the Omicron appeared in the earlier this year. Why not we do it earlier? Why not in March, like in Shanghai? when Shanghai broke, we have a outbreak in Shanghai. Remember in January and March, so all the whole month, Shanghai, the whole city was blocked almost for a month. You know, in Shanghai, that is also. Then people complain. Wow, they made even I heard that even the Japanese government complained that this will be affect the supply chains, because there are many companies, the exporting, import companies, and the supply chain. So because of Shanghai, the policy of Shanghai zero COVID, so it affected the supply chains in Shanghai. So the business also the international business also, they complained, why we need workers, we need to start with some work and so on. But at that time we cannot, you know, relax, because we don't know really, has not fully understand the nature of the Omicron by that time. But with the time going on, when we see what's happening in the outside world, in Europe, America, and other countries, Africa, and everywhere, we see that what's happening outside, and we also see the development of the cases, the disease cases in China. You know, now step by step, slowly, because the Chinese government tend to do things very carefully, because we remember this, always remember this. They take the people's life, put the people's life in the first place, always above everything, anything else. Even at the sacrifice of economic development, we have to save the human life. We have to save life first. Okay, that means if we say putting people's life and health above anything else, that means including economic, including GDP, including growth. See, so now we find that this virus, the impact of the virus is not that strong. Those, you know, it is the fewer people, the fatality case rate also falling down dramatically. It's not. So that is the major driver for the changing of the policy.
Excellent.
Oh,
excellent. I think that's
not because of people are not because of some few people are happy. Some people, no, well, I don't want to go. I want to go out. I don't want to stay. No. It's because of otherwise, yeah. You know. But there's a reason. Why people complain. I think government also taken something from people's complaints, because some people complain because they also think this Omicron is not a big deal. You know, why would make us fuss on the Omicron? Okay, let's go, let's open it. It doesn't matter, no more people. We are happy. You know, so that's the reflection of the case. But there's one thing I should tell you, Paul, we didn't realize, including myself, that Omicron really it's very difficult for you. Once you open it, when you say how effective of the zero policy. Before, when we adopt the zero policy, a few cases. Once we relax the zero policy, okay, no more worker, no more any restrictions, and you know, you can get anything. Suddenly, out of, you know, within one day, even overnight, this Omicron virus spread very quickly. You know, that also they remind us of how effective the policy is before. You know, this is really amazing. This is, for me, I took it in a positive way. This is really amazing how this effective also the zero policy COVID. But now we say, but now many people come to, so now we call it, because the symptom is much weaker. Now many people we got what's called there's a phrase called herd immunity, right? Immunization, yeah. herd immunization. So now everybody get this at least for the next 3 months, where 6 months, maybe probably 6 months. I cannot say longer, maybe 3 to 6 months. We are safe now from 6 months. Okay. Great. By the way, yeah, how about Africa? I ask you one question. I would like to ask you a question, Paul. What's the situation like in your country?
Well, in Ghana, we now with COVID-19, basically. I think since last year, March or so, that we had full restriction lifted. So hardly you go anywhere that you will see people actually observing any COVID.
Okay.
So, you see that when we had, I mean, of course, you go to public places, you see a bucket of water with soap you have to wash before you access the premises. More you walk around and drive around and see people wearing nose masks. It's not the case anymore.
Yeah.
In December, we had a lot of programs, celebrations all over, and nothing like that. So in fact, it's virtually non-existent here. I mean, as far as COVID-19 is concerned, even though we know there might be issues that we want to deal with.
Okay.
But then, of course,
Ghana. Yeah, of course, Ghana has how much population of Ghana? 30 million.
Yeah, 32. Yeah, 32.
32 million. 32 million is less than a province of China. China, with the province, we have a province of 100 million people, like Shandong, Sichuan province, Henan province. Okay, even smaller province have 20 million people, one smaller province. So China, but also land. I think China also learned all the cases from Ghana. I believe also African countries also they also relaxed. So that will be a factor. That will also be I think the important factor for China to learn from. So now it's time for us also to do the same. Okay, thank you, Paul. Back to you. Hello, Paul.
Yes, I'm here. Thank you very much.
So we learned from Ghana. We also learned from Ghana. So now it's time to relax. So that's the main reason. That's the main reason. Yeah. I should say.
So I have someone. He's called Kleju. I don't know if I got the name right. So you like to speak? So I'll just allow you. So Kleju, please, you can speak now. If you can unmute yourself. If you are still online, you can unmute yourself and then speak up. Kleju, are you there? You just have to unmute yourself and speak up. Okay, so maybe he's not ready yet. So let me disable talking. All right, let me check again if you have any questions here. So, okay, so Eric Gitao is asking that apart from the pandemic, there have been reports of, economic issues, especially in the real estate industry in China. How would this affect China's investments in infrastructure? So it's more of economic question. So it's mentioned that, of course, the restriction had impact on the economy, especially in the real estate industry. So how was this, how is this going to affect China's investment in infrastructure? Yeah.
Okay, China's investment in infrastructure, even in the last 3 years, and I think that we have we call it major projects, very important infrastructure projects, high-speed railways, highways, and ports, and also some other infrastructure-related project. That is the priority of the Chinese government in order to what you call the boost economic development. So we have to make sure that the money have to spend also very quickly to if you want to stimulate the economy, also including stimulating consumption. The Chinese way of the stimulating economy is through the investment. But people say, okay, why not just to boost the consumption? But my understanding is the way it is. This is also China. My view is a Chinese approach to stimulate consumption through investment. We have billions of RMB investment in major infrastructure projects even in the last 3 years. Let's not stop. Okay, it's continue in that areas in order to stimulate consumption, because you spend money in infrastructure projects. For example, you build a high-speed railway. You have to hire workers. You have to procure the materials from all many manufacturing sectors involved in this is building of the high-speed railway. I think the people get paid, and business can be paid, and though that also that is then the people have money, and they have income, and they're going to spend to consume. So that is the way investment. You can imagine, Paul, as you're an economist, you can imagine if you have money, you spend you buy, if you're a farmer, if you buy a luxury Mercedes-Benz car, less consumption, right? To drive. Okay.
Yeah.
If you buy a very powerful tractor, that is an investment, right?
Yeah.
As a farmer, you want to stimulate the economy, which way to go? You buy a tractor, powerful tractor, or you buy a luxury Mercedes-Benz? You see? Of course,
Yeah.
you buy a tractor. Yeah. You have to spend your millions of dollars to buy Mercedes-Benz, or you have to spend money on building the highway. You need the highway before you can drive a car on the, to drive your car. So you have to build the highway, and you build the highway. You create jobs, you create wealth. It is the chain of reaction. You help the businesses. You have many sectors involved. So now people have money. Now they can buy the Mercedes cars, and then to drive on the highway. So we should put the horse before the cart, not the other way around.
Indeed.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Wu. We'll be wrapping up very soon. So again, I'll give the last opportunity. If you have a question, please. You can send it through. I just want to check and see if I have a last question to ask Mr. Wu before we wrap up. So my question again, I think you brought it up, and it is very important to me because I am looking at the critical role that China plays, in the global economy. When we talk about even China's share of global trade as of now, and even China's role in international, multilateralism and international organizational stage. I mean, we all know that China is very much part of China's opening up and policies and growth that we've seen the last 3-4 decades. Also involve China being involved in international stage in globalization, multilateralism, and all of that. So I just wanted to understand how this new restriction being lifted, how that is very important to the rebuilding, the economic recovery of the global economy.
Okay, I think also that's a very good question. If you look at this, the latest statistics, the data on the foreign trade, I think China's external sector is also a very strong sector, even if we have this badly hit by the COVID-19 pandemics. But the external sector is still I think it's doing relatively good. If you look at the figures on the trade, export, import, and foreign trade is still in the positive side, positive figure compared to other sectors. So of course, with the relaxation of the policy, there's definitely will be a boost to the international cooperation on the trade and investment. There's no doubt about that. And given the strong resilience of the Chinese economy, even these 3 years, of course, China's economy has been, frankly speaking, has been affected. Every country has been affected, and China is no exception. We have to admit that, of course. But given the size of the Chinese economy and the resilience of the Chinese economy, so I think that once we get over this, turn to another page, take over this, I think we'll quickly, and we'll come back to normal and quickly. I think the activities international will slam. But again, I think here I like to mention one thing: why do we need international cooperation? We say you cannot. If you want to clap your hands, you have to use 2 hands to clap. You cannot do one hand. You cannot clap. Okay, you have 2 hands. So also international cooperation for trade and investment, you need 2 hands to clap together. If you one hand clap, the other one say, oh no, okay, you cannot clap. You can do or not do. So for this is also we need international cooperation. International cooperation in the sense that we working together to compact to fight against the COVID. Okay, and we work together to promote trade and investment. We're working together for us a common, we call it prosperity for our future. Yes. So I think it's good news. It's definitely good news. I think it's now I think the advice you can advise your African colleagues and government that I think it's a time to strengthen the engagement with China and on every sectors of the economy. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Wu. At this point, I would like to take your last comments on the conversation that we had so far, and then we can wrap it up. Yeah. So, any last comments in this conversation? Yeah. In terms of whatever it's from the African side, what kind of lessons there to take away from this? What should rejuvenate? You know, the China-Africa cooperation. Any last words? Yeah.
Okay, last question. So you're from Paul. I understand you are from Ghana, right?
Yes, I'm a Ghanaian.
Yes, yes, you're Ghana. Yes, I heard also recently that there's Ghana is experienced some kind of difficulty in paying back. Yeah, in paying back the sovereign debt. It's a what they call it a sovereign crisis, sovereign debt crisis.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, this is well, this is a very I think this is a bad news, and very bad news, and because this also reminded me of the debt crisis and in 70s, 80s, and 90s, all through this in the Latin American. You know, as you know, obviously, like Argentina, Mexico, and other Latin American countries, they experienced this because they borrowed heavily before. Their development strategies to try to develop through borrowing. I think this also could be a lesson for our African countries, yeah, to think it really carefully, to think also about the future development strategy. It is you have to work out to find a more sustainable way and to develop your economy, more balanced approach. And it also it is also worrying that Ghana is this situation is not very good, but of course, I think there's still hope. Still hope. I don't want to be too pessimistic. Okay. Yeah. And for example, the government. This is the first time I coughed. Not because of the COVID. It's you talk it for almost an hour.
Yes,
then you have to
water. Yeah.
Get some water.
Yeah, sure.
I didn't have any cough really. Although it became positive, but no cough for me. So I'm very light symptoms for me. So I'm a living example for this.
Yeah,
very living. But it's not. But I cannot say everybody is like me. No. That is not true. Okay, that's not true. It's only for me.
Yeah.
Sure. So what was okay? The Ghana's sovereign debt. This the difficulty. Now I think it's very important. I also read the news that the government has reached agreement with the International Monetary Fund. Yeah, they reached agreement for temporary measures to prevent the situation getting worse. Okay, so I think the IMF has agreed to provide the $3 billion for the short-term temporary interim assistance too. I think it's good. I think the next step is be more important that for the country government to negotiate with the creditors, major creditors, and to reach agreement to work together tide over. This is as I said, it's a two-sided say challenge, not just challenge for the country, for the borrower, but also a challenge for the creditors. So I have the need to work together and on the spirit of cooperation and looking forward and take a long-term view and to work tide over this temporary difficulty. And but so I think the government need the lesson for that. That's when we borrow, we have to make sure that the money spent will generate sufficient return to pay back the debt. That is why we have to decide where we should use the money, in which sector is a priority. And that is very, very important. As I mentioned, we borrow money, should buy a tractor, not buy a Mercedes-Benz.
Mm-hmm.
So if you buy a tractor, you make good use. You have to produce. You're a farmer. You work in the farmland. If you buy a Mercedes-Benz, you will be generate no return for you to pay back the money you borrowed. So this is the advice I should give that, and also more balanced approach, and always watch carefully what they say, because also that maybe there's also external factors in this. The inflation, the rise of the interest rate, all these external factors, they will affect the country, or worldwide. And so that is so we need to work together on that. Yes.
Thank you very much.
This is the only only comments I say.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wu, on behalf of the Africa-China Center for Policy and Advisory. We say a very big thank you to you for sharing these insights with us. So this is recorded. We'll make it available on our YouTube channel as well, and then we'll be shared again on our platforms and via email as well. So we say a very big thank you to you. And of course, thank you to everyone that joined us for this first conversation. We have our next webinar happening on January 24th. It's on the China-Africa trade and investment relations. So we have another webinar happening on January. Let me see if I can share my screen. Okay. On January 24th, 2023 at 30 p.m. GMT. We'll be sharing this event with you as well, so you can check it out. We have another one scheduled for February, which is on the post-US African Leaders Summit, what the implications are for China-Africa cooperation, because it's a very important conversation to be had, looking at the FOCAC, the existence of FOCAC, and now the second US African Leaders Summit. So we want to see the dynamics, what is happening, what is changing geopolitically, and how that will affect the China-Africa relations. So we have these events happening. You can always check our website. Again, we will send emails to all of you for follow-up on this webinar, and as well as the new webinars that you can join us. Just locking it in your calendar, and then you can be part of the conversation live. Thank you very much, and we'll come away again on January 24th, and of course by your emails and all of that. So thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day. Yeah. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you very much. Right. Okay. Have a nice day.
All right. You too. Bye.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye. Good night.